Welcome to the Timmy Kick Show. I'm your host today, Timmy Kick. Today we're going to be talking about codependency. Codependency is when one person emotionally and psychologically is overbearing and relies on another person. Usually falls into play in the addiction field. Codependency, as an example, is when one individual basically spoon feeds the other. Okay, I'll go to the store if you go. I'll go on this road trip, or I'll go to college if you go too. The inability to want to be, like as in codependency, to be independent. And this is what we're striving for today, is to stop your codependency and become a little bit more independent. Remember, as we've said on other shows, it's everything in the addiction field is baby steps. You're not going to go out and change your habitual ways overnight. Everything takes time. A couple things I want to bring up about codependency, and I want to refer to myself. I had a codependency myself personally with my drug, with vodka. And as I've said before, I'm an alcoholic. I had to have, you know, you get on the airplanes and fly around, and well, if you're over 18, and there's these little, we call them shooters, little bottles of whatever you want, whiskey or vodka, whatever. I had them everywhere. I had them in my coat pocket. I had them in my glove box. I had them everywhere. I was codependent on that relaxation point, good feeling, too much, all the time, where I got to a point where I couldn't get through a day without them. If your codependency is not your particular drug, and the drug goes hand in hand with other individuals, like I said in the beginning, you have to have help all the time. You can't do anything. You can't make your own meals. You got to have somebody make them for you. You can't. Some people don't even have a driver's license. They're codependent on someone to drive them around all the time. A story about myself. I had a best friend who's been gone 3 years now. We did everything together. And I was so codependent on him through my worst times in my life. And in fact, indirectly, for a long time, he enabled me, which enabling and codependency are kind of hand in hand. The long short of it was, tragically, he died 3 years ago of a brain tumor. I was his best man when he got married, and he was mine. To this day, there's hurt feelings over his generosity for helping me all those years because I never paid him back. I mean, I did for a while, but I didn't. And God bless him in heaven, wherever he is. But at this point in my life, it's very important to me to right some of these wrongs that happened when I was in my throes of addiction. I always had good intentions. I always was a go-getter and a do-gooder and tried to make it in life where I could give him back in favor of what he did for me, but it didn't happen. So, as I say to people, when you get through recovery, it's very important, if you owe people money or you're indebted to somebody, let's put it that way, make an effort to do it. And not only will it make them feel better, it'll make you feel better too. Codependency is a controversial concept for a dysfunctional helping relationship where one's support or enables another person's addiction. Mental health, immaturity, responsibility, or an underachievement all can play independent roles in a codependency situation. Excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically a partner who requires support due to an illness or an addiction. A lot of times we get wrapped up in a codependency and we say, what is my part in this mess? Because it is a mess. you have to differentiate what's going on sometimes around you and what your part is in all this. And the good news is we all have the ability to change our ways. Nothing's in stone. You know, I remembered people that I was so annoyed with many, many years ago when I went to treatment. And you know, I see them from time to time out surviving. Some of them shine up pretty good. And they've learned, just as I learned, some key points to keep them going. I was over at a facility not too long ago, and it was really quite a remarkable memory for me. I was walking down the main hallway of the rehabilitation center, and I saw a picture of a memorial on the wall. I really had to think hard on the dates of his birth date and when he died. He died of sadly, he died of an overdose. He's been gone 15 years. 15 years. I knew this kid. And I couldn't help to ponder 15 long years. And he was 19. What a life he would have today if somebody could have overlooked his annoying ways, his addiction, his habits, and maybe tried a little harder to keep him in treatment. He was in a treatment facility and he opted to leave with others at the same time. Again, talking about codependency, you know, it's very easy when you're in a rehab situation to think abnormal thoughts because you're sick. I was sick. I drank for 30 years. I was a very sick dude. It's very easy to gravitate to people when you're in rehabilitation situations because everyone wants the BBD, the bigger, better deal. Everyone wants to say, enough of this crap, I'm opting out. This was this gentleman's fatal mistake because about a week later they found him and he was gone from an overdose. Today I want to talk about kind of a funny story. There was a farmer a long, long time ago, long before tractors, gas-powered tractors were around. My great-grandfather had a team of horses when he came over here from the old country. This farmer had a horse. This farmer did everything with his horse. He plowed his fields and he would harvest the crops in the fall, and he loved this horse. He was in the barn more with this horse than he was in the house with his beautiful farming wife. Well, he even on nice days put a saddle on this horse and he went riding around his property and in the meadow with this horse. He just loved this horse. He would brush this horse's mane and he would brush the horse's tail, and he just doted over this animal all the time. Well, he had definitely a need for this horse, but he also had an emotional codependency with this horse. And this is what happened. One day, when he got up in the morning, like his usual schedule, he went out to the barn and found the horse was gone. The horse had died in the night in, his stall, wherever he was tied up. Well, the farmer really had a meltdown over this. I mean, he actually, back in those days, and a lot of farmers did, made his own corn squeezins, his own jug whiskey, and he would sit out there crying by the horse. He refused to listen to his wife and bury this horse. Well, a couple of weeks went on, and he didn't want to do his regular daily chores because he was grieving over this horse. And, you know, he would sit there basically and get drunk every day and cry and, pet his dead horse. Well, the long short of it, he eventually did listen to his wife. He dug a big hole and he buried this horse. I have good news for you. The farmer went out and bought another horse. In fact, he went out and he bought 2 horses and he had a regular 2-horse team. Why? Because he didn't want to go through the agony that he went through losing his first horse. So, again, it's a learning process, and all good things come in time. Okay, I want to lead into another story, and this really happened. When I was in a treatment program years ago, we started out on a crisis floor, and then after 6, 7 days of just coming in fresh, a little drunk, a little high, we are evaluated for 2 or 3 days before they put you, they call downstairs, into a 30-day treatment program. At the time, I was on the floor maybe with 16 people. 2 of them came in, a young man and a young woman named Tom and Cindy. Tom and Cindy were heroin addicts. These 2 came in sheet white as a ghost. Their skin was so pale, I'll never forget it. It almost looked like white makeup or talcum powder on their faces. And we thought they were mute because they wouldn't speak. They were using sign language to each other. And we thought, well, this is bizarre, this is odd. But after a week of being around them, the paleness went away and their regular skin color came back, and they'd been sober a week. They started eating with us in the food hall and this and that and the other. They came in with a bunch of bizarre reasons. They had a very wealthy old man buying their heroin for them for unruly or unduly favors, if you will. But they codependently came into the rehab together. He wouldn't come in without her. She wouldn't come in without him. So down the road, say 12 days, he had a motivational tool that he couldn't get out of his head. His father, his grandfather were in the oil business. He was the only son, heir to the estate. And basically they said to him, either you get cleaned up, Tom, or we're cutting your inheritance. That was his motivation. I'm sure wanting to get well was in there somewhere, but that wasn't really his priority. Again, 12 days in, he thought the love of his life, Cindy, she took off. He was heartbroken, almost to the point of a relapse. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to go on without her. He did everything with this young woman, and it was crushing for him. He got playing football with us outside. The weather was nice. It was a nice fall day and nice warm weather. Leaves are turning color, bright and cheery. And we convinced him to stay with us, to stick it out. And by God, I ran into him about 2 years later. He is now taking over his father's business. And he told me his success story. I want to go through some very important key points about codependency for you. And, well, let's get going on it right now, okay? How to break codependency habits. Some healthy steps to healing your relationship from codependency include: 1. Start being honest with yourself and being honest with your partner. So many times in a codependency situation, one does not want to hurt the other one's feelings. A good way to be honest with each other is when you're sitting down in a codependency situation, write down 10 likes and dislikes almost on a daily basis of how you feel towards that person. You need to write it down. You can't just think it in your head or just say it when you're in the throes of anger either. You need to write it down and just keep referring to your list. Number 2, stop negative thinking. There's an old saying, you can catch more flies with sugar than you can vinegar. Stop your negative thinking. You know this person's sick right now. You're not helping the situation by your codependency behaviors. So what's your next step? What are you going to do? You're going to try to get them into a treatment center, correct? Start calling around, pick up the phone, take initiative, take action. Don't just talk about it, and don't keep beating the person up verbally just because. And to a point, you have that right. You love this person. You're watching them stumble and fall, but all you're doing is running up behind them with negative thinking, negative verbally comments you're saying to them, or talking to other people about them all the time. Stop doing that. You've got to, if you want positive outcomes, you have to put yourself in a positive light. Number 3, don't take things personally. Oh, my Lord, it's so easy to do. When you're working with someone that, trying to work with someone, usually a family member or a dear friend or whatever the case may be, I hate you. I hate you too. It's so easy to throw it back and forth. And then you take it personal. Remember you told me when you hated me 25 years ago? Some people doing it. So anyways, be positive. Don't take things personal. Most important, I feel, is number 4. Take breaks. Step out of the situation. Take a walk. Bite your tongue if you have to sometimes. Just blow it off. Count to 10. Do what you got to do. Don't be so hard on someone where it's going to turn into an emotional, mental meltdown or a verbal altercation. You need to take a break. Sometimes taking a break means getting in your car and not seeing them for a week. Get away from them. 5, this is a big one. Consider counseling. I went to counseling I still go to counseling, and I've been sober quite some time now. To me, counseling is like eating a fresh apple every day. Can't hurt you. Number 6, rely on peer support. Power comes in numbers, folks. Peer support. Hang with winning people. People that don't just say things, they're doers. They're task doers. They get things done. You have 2 types of people in the world. You have givers and you have takers. Well, most people in the throes of addiction are takers. And number 7, you must establish boundaries. Super, super important. No means no. When you say no, you damn well better mean it. Start living your own life. Go from your codependency issues to your independent issues. And remember, when you're in a codependency situation, you want to become to an independent situation. I hope you've enjoyed my personal experience. If you're looking for more information, feel free to call